So, Stephen, tell me about yourself.
Well, what do you want to know about me?
Well, I mean, the basics. I mean, tell me your name, whatever you want to know, tell people.
Okay. My name is Stephen Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody calls me, all my friends call me Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived here in Union all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a painter.
Mm-hmm.
I like to play music.
Mm-hmm.
I love to read. I haven't watched TV in about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I love to read and hang out in my room and meditate. And
Mm-hmm.
I like to read old occult books. And I'm just a different type of person. I'm the weird one in the family.
Well, I understand that. I'm probably the weird one in mine as well. So you read a lot of old occult books.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
Well, I started studying, getting deeper. I was raised Christian, and but in the past 10 years, I've spent a lot of time studying all forms of religion,
Mm-hmm.
and I studied demonology and just opened myself up to other things than
Mm-hmm.
what I was raised. Just trying to figure out the reason why I started studying the occult and religion and demonology and Freemasonry. I belong to the lodge. I'm a chaplain at a lodge, so and it turns out that's helped me in the lodge. Being a chaplain. I feel like I'm a better service to people because there's really nothing that you can talk to me about that's going to throw me back.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot and experienced a lot in the past 20 years. But it really all started for me when I started having sleep paralysis in my
Mm-hmm.
20s,
Mm-hmm.
to where I was seeing spirits, jinn, or whatever you want to call them. Some people call them jinn. The Muslims call them jinn, Christians call them demons, Gnostics call them archons. But on a regular basis, I was able to see these spirits and communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Not at will. I have no control over this. When it happens, it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 10 times a month, or I could go 1 year and not have nothing happen.
How old were you when you first had this experience?
Well, my first real spiritual experience and out of body experience happened when I was 7 years old. My grandfather was having a heart attack in the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and I was asleep on the couch in the house, and I thought when it was happening that I was awake. I was able to look around the room. I could see the TV playing, but I lifted up out of my body. I went down the hallway of the house that we lived in, and I was met by his spirit, and I could see his spirit standing at the end of the hallway. And when I seen him, his spirit went out the window, and I went back into my body exactly the way I traveled out of it, in reverse, like when you rewind a song on a tape or
Mm-hmm.
rewind a video. That's how I went back into my body, and that was the first time, excuse me, that I had an out of body, a spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I was 7, and that was a good experience because when I came back into my body, I jumped up off the couch and I ran into the backyard, and sure enough, my grandfather was laying there unconscious. he'd had a massive heart attack. And I jumped on my bicycle and went to my aunt's next door, and she called an ambulance, and they came in time to save him.
That's great.
Yeah, he had a triple bypass in Atlanta. But if I hadn't had that experience, me being asleep on the couch, he could have laid out there and died, because it was just me and him at home when it happened.
Right.
So.
Have you ever had any experiences, seeing things in the spirit world that were frightening?
Yes. In my 20s, in my early 20s is when I started having the sleep paralysis, is what I call it. From my research, because there's hundreds of thousands of people on the planet, in all cultures and all religions and all places on earth, that have the experience of sleep paralysis. And back when it first started happening to me, you couldn't get on a computer and find somebody. When it first happened to me, I had went and talked to a preacher at a church, and it was an awful experience. I mean, I cried and opened up to him, told him what it was I was going through. I thought that I would get some help from him, because I have heard him preach about the devil and demons, and because I was a member of his church. I was a musician. I was the bass player on the praise team at the time. When I told him what I was experiencing, he pretty much mocked me and laughed at me, and was like, it must be mental health, or his question was, are you on drugs? And I knew then that I need to be careful about who I told.
Right.
These, who I told about these experiences, because with my family too, they just, they know me as Stevie. I guess just like that Bible verse, Jesus said, a prophet has no honor in his own house. People you live around and you deal with on a daily basis are likely not to be able to relate to you on stuff like this, because they have a way that they perceive you.
It must have been extremely traumatizing and very disconcerting to have someone who you looked up to and admired and thought of as a spiritual guide to betray you, and your family not being supportive. How have you dealt with that?
Well, in my 20s, I turned, it was so bad, and it started happening so much. I don't know, I know that looking back on it, I know why things happened the way they did in some circumstances, but I turned to, drugs and alcohol and party life. My way of dealing with it at that point was I just didn't want to feel nothing.
Right.
And if I was high or drunk or, even using sex, being with, just being out there self-medicating was a way that I tried to cope with all this, because there's a lot of times I felt like I was crazy, that maybe I was mental health. Because the way it started and it progressed, it got crazier. I mean, and it's true, truth is stranger than fiction.
It is.
And I'm fearful for people in this world, because the things that are really true have been demonized so much that people would rather believe a lie. It helps. I guess bliss. Ignorance is bliss in a lot of cases.
But that's not very realistic, is it?
No.
And a lot of times, and I imagine with some of your experiences, had you continued down the road of drug abuse or denial or redefining, that it probably would have been spiritually damaging for you and possibly even physically dangerous. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, I've had low points to where I tried to take my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But, and that's when it even got stranger,
Mm-hmm.
because when I really tried to commit suicide, and it didn't happen. And I don't even want to even tell people what really happened that day, because it was purely spiritual. I mean, it's a miracle that I'm sitting here today. It's a miracle. Because I feel like an angel saved me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for me being here, and I'm trying to find out what it is, just like any other person that's on this path. There's a lot of good people in this world who know the truth and they experience things like this. They're trying to figure out, you know, what is really going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is all the secrecy about? You know, why is it when you bring up certain things, it's shot down immediately? It's not being possible. But to give you kind of an idea of the first thing that I seen that was scary to me when it first happened. And now these things don't scare me. I just think it's a part of nature. I believe that, you know, demons have their place in this universe. You know, that we're all living under divine providence and natural law. And certain things we do in our everyday life will things you eat, things you believe, things you put into your body is what opens doors to these energies. I like to look at the spiritual realm and the esoteric is we're dealing with energy, you know. That simplifies it for me. I don't like to get into all the names, because when you really try to understand it, you know, you're dealing with energy, and you have all the control over this energy, because we're the conduit for this realm.
And we are energy ourselves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But my first experience where I seen one of these entities face to face was at my mother's house. I had spent the night because I had a real bad earache, and I seen this as I was laying on the bed. I was looking at the alarm clock, and when you have an episode of sleep paralysis, it'll always happen when you're going into sleep or when you're coming out of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like when you doze off, and they call it twilight, that's the moment right before you go into deep sleep. My eyes just flickered a little bit looking at the clock, and I kind of dozed off, and then that's when I seen that spirit come up out of the floor. It looked like a grim reaper. It said my name, and it called me by the name that my family uses. Stevie, not Steven. And when it came out of the floor, it come up at the foot of my bed, and it was like it just crawled over on my chest and got right in my face. And I couldn't breathe, I couldn't speak. It felt like 1,000 pounds of weight. It feels like you're in a room full of magnets and you're the only metal. You know, the energy, it pulls you. There's nothing you can do. I don't think these spirits can be killed, or their power it's unexplainable, really, how much power they have.
So that particular experience that you had, I'm sure it was extremely terrifying. How do you nowadays cope with these experiences?
when I have them now, I just relax
Mhm.
because over the years I figured out that you can't move them.
Right.
You're not going to win physically, and I know there's certain prayers and things that I've read that has helped.
Mhm.
Even when I couldn't speak these prayers, if I thought them, if I could just think these prayers, I could make them go away.
Right.
And I'm not trying to bring religion into it and say that, that's what's going to help you if you're going through things like this. Because in a lot of ways, religion has made it worse. I want to find the real Jesus. And if I want to help somebody, I want to help people find the real answer, the real truth. And it's hard to find because in my situation, experiencing these things, I really got deep into religion and church, and I've had preachers pray for me, and I've had people who were sincere try to help me,
Mhm.
that did believe me. Not all Christians didn't reject me like that,
Mhm.
but the people who did want to help me, even they couldn't help me.
Right.
Even the ones who really wanted to help me.
Do you think that the solution to all of these issues lies in religion? Or where do you think that people could go for answers about true spirituality?
All religions talk about these entities in their sacred writings. In Islam, you can read the Quran.
Mhm.
You can read about the jinn, and in some cases in that religion, jinn are not always good and they're not always bad. But in the Christian religion, demons are always bad. And that's what helped. That's what got me started into Freemasonry. I thought that if I could, learn, because something about Freemasonry always stood out to me, and that's when things really got stranger for me. Is I started trying to help myself. I started fasting a lot
Mhm.
and praying a lot and meditating a lot, because I got to the place where, I know even these religions and religious people, they really mean well and they're trying to help me, but nothing's working.
Mhm.
Excuse me. When nothing's working, you got to try to find something that works.
Right.
So what helped me is everything started to change for me, and everything's good in my life now. Is when I got into Freemasonry and just took off with it. I met someone that helped me get into the lodge, and for 18 straight months, all I did was learn those degrees.
Mhm.
I went from the first to the 32nd, just trying to soak it up like a sponge.
So, do you think that Freemasonry has given you some sort of peace and been able to channel some of that energy that you have? What has it done for you?
Look, when I got into Freemasonry, I ran into the same problem that I did in religion. 99% of Freemasons that we're around, we know a lot of Masons. Masons don't talk about this stuff either.
Right.
You think when you join in the lodge that you're going to be able to be involved, you're going to learn more about esoteric stuff and spiritualism, but the truth is you're not.
Right.
The ceremonies and the rituals in Freemasonry are good teachers in themselves. The symbols And that will help a person a lot in their spiritual life. But you won't meet people in Freemasonry that can talk about stuff like this because they're not there. All this stuff you see on YouTube about free and accepted Masons being involved in a dark occult is a bunch of sensationalism. It's fake. It's not true. It don't exist. I mean, I can't. I'm worried that I'll get thrown out of the lodge for asking questions I ask sometimes because most people in the lodge are Christians. They're just good people, but you will run across a few though here and there that know about this stuff, has experienced it. Something's going on,
I'm going to go back to a point that you brought up earlier about finding out the truth of things. The old adage is the truth will set you free. Do you think that people have a natural aversion for the desire for true freedom? What do you think it is in our culture and our society today that people seem to want to be enslaved rather than free?
Because it's the way things are, it's the easiest way. The path to truth is very narrow. Jesus talked about the straight and narrow. In Freemasonry, you have the myth of Hiram Abiff being murdered because of knowledge. And in the Christian religion, the Pharisees accused Jesus of being a witch, and that all his miracles he done by the power of Beelzebub. So even in the Christian religion, you could be killed or murdered for the knowledge you possess. People don't like the thought of somebody having the upper hand on them because they know something that they don't know. And that worst case scenario, best case scenario is how I look at a lot of this stuff. But the truth is displayed in Freemasonry in the symbols. To me, this is my opinion, and from what I've been through and my interactions with the spirit realm, I believe with all my heart that all the world's religions stand outside the door of Freemasonry. In Freemasonry, the symbology of Freemasonry teaches you, it displays the real truth of this reality. From the checkered floor, the white and black, the duality, that's even in electricity, the positive and negative charge that we all have. Even it's the human body and the symbols in Freemasonry are alike. The right and the left. I believe that we all have the devil in us. And we all have Jesus in us. And it's the balancing out of those energies is where we find the straight and narrow.
Right. When you talk about Jesus and you talk about the devil, you're talking about good and evil, correct?
Good and evil.
Okay. So having that sense of duality that we are partially good or partially evil, what do you think tips the balance?
Well, I believe that, like with these jinn, in a lot of ways, they were helping me find balance. Because I had gotten too far to the left, so to speak. Because I was abused as a child. I was raised in a lot of negative energy. When you expose a child to low frequencies and dark energy when they're small, then you cause your children to be off balance.
Mhm.
And so I was off balance, and I believe that these jinn or spirits, they come to all of us. A lot of things that happen in your life are just spirits trying to get you balanced back out.
Mhm.
You know, the real Jesus and the real devil those are personifications of energies that exist in this universe. In this universe, divine providence will always balance you out. It's like on the Georgia state seal. You see the three columns, one in the middle, and you see the words wisdom and moderation. And you see the justice, Lady Justice, holding the scales. You see that in Freemasonry a lot. You see that in the courtrooms. When we go to court, you'll see Lady Justice holding the scales. And in those symbols show you that in this world, in this reality that we live in, that balance always has to be maintained.
Right.
And you're never going to find truth until you find balance.
Mhm.
And balance, and it's displayed in like the crucifixion of Jesus. You see the three crosses, and he's in the middle. He's always in the middle. That's perfect balance. You know, you had the one thief that wouldn't repent, the one thief that would, and you had Jesus in the middle. And Jesus, in the Christian religion, Jesus always talks about the straight and narrow. Well, the straight and narrow is where balance is.
Mhm.
So, you know, religion can be a good thing to start with, but you can also get lost in religion. You can worship the creation more than the creator. You can look at the reflection and not see the actual person, you know. And that's how religion helped me a lot, but it hurt me a lot too. Because you can get caught up in this, like right now, what's going on in America in churches, it's very deceptive. You know, you can feel like you're right with God and you're right in your life just because you go to church and do religious acts. But you can be religious and have no power. You can be destructive. If your frequency is low, I've met people in church that were just dark. I mean, they were evil people. I mean, you'll meet them, and you know, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you can look at Islam. You got people that strap bombs on and go blow up buildings, and that's a wrong interpretation of what Islam teaches.
Right.
It's out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
In the Christian religion, you had the you know, they used to kill people for having birthmarks, or like Jacques de Molay was murdered by the Pope, and the Pope and you know, he cursed the Pope, and there's another person there that he cursed too, and he cursed the Catholic Church as he was dying in the fire. That's showing you how religion can go too far left. When you throwing people in the fire and burning them, or hanging them on a cross, accusing them of being witches, that's where religion, you know, is a double-edged sword. It can do good, but you can destroy people with religion, and it happens every day. There's more wars than more people has died over religion than anything in this world. So the truth is in religion, but it's not, you know. It's the truth about myth, myth about truth. And that's where Freemasonry, the symbols and stuff in Freemasonry helped me figure a lot of this stuff out. It's helped me better myself, and I'm able to get past the craziness of the spiritual realm that I opened myself up to, or I don't know how it happened. But I've had psychic experiences where I would know things were going to happen before they happened. And I believe that really being psychic and knowing things, I believe that's our birthright.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of this stuff that's demonized by religions and people is really what we're supposed to be able to know things before they happen, have intuition. We're supposed to be able to lucid dream. We're supposed to be able to astral project, and I've been able to do that, in the past 10 years. It's not all bad, but I've been able to astral project out of my body, and I've been able to fix problems in my dreams that's helped me in my business. I have dreamed about problems at work and fixed them in my dream, and then when I wake up the next day, have it play out during the day in the physical realm. So I think, we've all been shut down spiritually, in a sense, by religion. But a lot of these things that are demonized, a lot of people say everything's in reverse, everything's upside down. That's the delusion. If you try to reveal the truth to people, they won't receive it. They reject it before they even give it any thought, because they're programmed to believe that way.
Yeah, and I think too they instinctually realize the truth will set them free, and freedom is so frightening because you have to take personal responsibility when you're free. Otherwise, if you're enslaved, someone tells you what to think and what to do.
Yes, that's what I'll say. The blame game.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to blame people because this is what I believe, and for me, is everything in my life I created it, and I didn't know it. And I believe when I was having those episodes of sleep paralysis, and I was seeing those spirits, the dark energy, I believe that was the universe showing me how far off I was, and that I was doing it. I was creating this. I believe that we create everything, and to much who is given, much is required. And when you're given knowledge like this, when you read in Freemasonry, you'll come across terms in Albert Pike's writings where he talks about the profane and the chosen, the elect and the profane. And a lot of people think, well, they call us profane. It's not like that. The way he wrote about it was, there are profane people in this world. They're in religion. They're everywhere you go. And everywhere you go in this world, you can find good people. You'll find the chosen. The uninitiated. It's hard to get initiated into these mystery schools. It's very hard. And Freemasonry is not the only mystery school that you can hook yourself up with.
Right.
There's many orders in this world, and they all teach the same thing. Just higher knowledge. And even in religion, you have the prescription for life. If you've done the things that Jesus said you should do, you're gonna reap good benefits from it. And just like in Islam, at the core of every religion, if you take all the religions and put them together, and start looking at all the similarities and glean all the similarities instead of the division. I think the church being divided against itself and religions being divided against itself, I think that's what's evil in this world.
And a lot of people argue that without religion, without some spirituality per se, in the form of religion, that we would be devoid of morals and there would be chaos. How do you feel about that? Do you think that religion provides morality, or is that something that is innate within us?
I believe we're born with a conscience. But some people can't. I believe that religion had to be put in place to police people, because people can be so evil. Manly Palmer Hall once said in one of his lectures, he said that, and he was a Rosicrucian and a Freemason, 33rd degree Mason. He said that it was possible for 50 billion people could live on this planet and live in peace.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it probably would never happen. You know, people can be so selfish. And I believe that all the bad things that are happening in this world and that will happen is because of selfishness. When a person is selfish, they violate natural law. And all religion is a mirror of something spiritual that's real. Religion is like truth, but it's not truth.
Right.
It's like it, but it's not the thing. And religion is mirroring what I believe to be, natural law. Because natural law under divine providence is like a machine. They say God is no respecter of persons. He'll bless you just like he'll bless me. But he'll also, the flip side of that is under natural law, it don't care who you are. It don't care if you're a Freemason or a president. If you do things against that violates natural law, then you will suffer. And it's a rabbit hole to go down in your mind, because people like to look at things, well, I'll just say this prayer and I'll be good.
Right.
Or I can get forgiveness for this Sunday and everything will be good. But that's not what religion was designed for, is not to give you a free pass. Because
in my opinion, and what I have seen and what I experience in life, religion is a social construct that is designed to govern people and to control and manipulate and reinforce a certain type of behavior.
Yes.
And while there are truths in religion, religion itself is simply a governance of weak-willed individuals.
A lot of it is purely man-made. Even the people who wrote the Bible were just men, people like me and you. Because the Native Americans, they didn't have churches and stuff that they had to adhere to. The religious system, but they lived in balance with nature.
Right. They believed in animism, that everything had energy, everything had a purpose, and everything was important.
And that's what we've got away from.
Right.
If something were to happen and we didn't have water and electricity pumped to us, we would all die because we don't know how to live in this earth. We don't know how to live in balance with Mother Nature. We don't even know what's going on around us anymore, because we've gotten so hooked into this system. That's what I believe that's the real second coming. The metaphor of Jesus coming back, is not like religion teaches. Christ consciousness is going to have to come back. Because people are starting to figure out that they've been lied to. It's starting to show.
I respectfully, I'm going to disagree with you. I think that people are so attached to their technologies, their little phones, that they really don't have an opinion about anything. They're incapable of thinking, and they're incapable of making choices because they are dependent. That's my opinion.
I agree with you, Suzanne. I agree with you. I mean, everybody's looking down when they need to be looking up.
Right, right. And I mean, what do you think? Getting back on the subject of balance, how do you feel that is to be obtained within the bounds of religion, or what people have available to them presently?
Well, I believe you're always going to get what you put out. You know, your universe is always going to mirror back to you what's inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
See, religion tells you to find the Jesus in the sky, but the real Jesus was always inside of you to start with. You know, like in Freemasonry, you have 33 degrees in Freemasonry, where you have 33 vertebrae in your body. You have 30, and them 33 vertebrae, and that's how, you know, things are so upside down. This system and this religion is teaching people to find truth somewhere where it's not.
Right.
But, you know, the metaphors are all there. You know, when Moses was in the wilderness, he held a serpent up on a staff. And all the people in the story would look at this serpent and be healed.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the New Testament, you have Jesus talking about, he refers to that. He says, just like Moses lifted the serpent up in the wilderness, so must I be lifted up. And if I be lifted up, I draw all men unto me. But that serpent on the staff has always symbolized wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at in ancient Egypt, like in Hindus, you know, the third eye is always at the top of those 33 vertebrae.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the staff. That is what the serpent on the staff is what I believe. So people are looking for truth in the church or up in the heavens, and the whole time the truth was inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within, you know.
Right.
So anytime you look for God outside of yourself, you're looking in the wrong place.
Right.
That's why religious people can chain you to a tree and set you on fire, because their belief system was tainted from the start. You know, sometimes you have to forget everything that you've been taught and start over. And that's what I did when I got into the lodge and started studying this stuff. You know, I got to a place where I was like, you know, everything I've done up to this point is not working. So I'm going to trash all my old belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start with a new belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started studying, I just pretty much cleaned myself, emptied myself out, and started over.
Mm-hmm.
And was just open-minded. And I'm still doing that daily, on a day-to-day basis now. You know, something that I might believe might be true today, I might wake up tomorrow and realize, you know what, I was wrong about that. I need to rethink that belief system.
Right.
Because, I mean, my motivation now is I know from being on the inside and you get into these type of things, you really see how messed up things really are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary. And I want to leave something for my children. You know, I'm raising my granddaughter. She's 20 months old. I've never told her Jesus is coming back tomorrow, because I used to walk around scared to death when I was a kid, because I thought the world was going to end the next day. My grandparents told me that, you know, because they was told that, you know, I was raised in fear, and I don't want to raise my granddaughter to fear spiritual things and to think that, you know, the world's going to end tomorrow. Those are just belief systems you don't want to give your children.
Well, on top of that, as you had said earlier, you know, that the God or the good is in us, so is the bad. We are, where you have to find that balance, and inside us is where there are answers and
Yes.
is the truth. And you sounds like you want to convey that, and it's positive, that you need to teach the young ones growing up that they are enough.
Yeah.
They don't need to depend on religion, or when she gets older, she doesn't need to depend on a relationship. She is enough on her own.
Exactly.
And that's important principle that you're trying to teach her.
Yeah, and she's not broken.
Mm-hmm.
You're not lost. Because I've never been lost. Even in my worst, lowest points in life,
Mm-hmm.
I always had help spiritually, even when the whole church was against me. Thinking back, I listened to my grandfather talking about Mahalia Lancaster. They called her a witch.
Mm-hmm.
But when something bad would happen, that's
to
where
her.
they ran to. Yeah, there was a time and a place to when, being psychic or being spiritual or being a witch was not evil.
Right.
Because these people, they were in tune, they were born naturally in tune with nature. They knew that if you went out there in the field and got this and mixed it with that you could cure this ailment.
Mm-hmm. Well, we went from having wise women to witches,
Yeah.
and wisdom being, put down and attempted to be destroyed. But that goes back to people not being in tune and balanced, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, in closing, I just want to thank you for coming and spending some
Thank
time
you.
and talking with me about these things today. Is there anything that you wish to close with?
Well, I do want to say I appreciate it, and like I said, I want to leave something for my children that's going to really help them. And I hate to see our youth going to hell in a handbasket. Everything you need, you're born with it. You already have it. You already have the Jesus you're looking for is inside you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tap into this anytime you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You're not broken, you're not lost, you're complete.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd like to leave people with.
And that's a very positive message.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.